you want to be the dumbest one in the room. I know you were talking about it. I do believe that a lot of times people want to be the smartest one in the room and they're not hanging out with the right people, because I really enjoy being around people that are 10 times smarter, have done bigger and better things than me. I think that allows you, to your point, if you see someone and you make friends with someone who's a billionaire, you might start believing like, hey, you know what? Maybe I deserve it. Maybe I could do it. Right. Because you get to meet them and it seems more achievable. Right. When you think of like a famous celebrity or an athlete, you're like, I could never be like that. Right. But when you meet them and you become friends with them and you realize they're just the same as you, they're just, they eat, sleep, and do the same thing as us, that you think, wow, you know what? I could do that. So to your point about the mindset, I think you've got to be the dumbest one in the room. You have to find those people. And then, like I was saying before, you could figure out a way to emulate, and maybe your worth will be higher when you're around them more.
Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.
Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. I'm pumped up. I'm excited. When I think about millions, I think about my next guest. Let me tell you, this guy brings the energy. He brings the passion. Most importantly, he's a giver. And I love givers. He's a person that gives from his heart, serves. They believe in bringing value. And I want to welcome to the episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show right now, this week, the one and only Mr. Daniel Robbins with IBH Media. Daniel, how you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm always so inspired by you, by the way. You're like I don't drink coffee, but listening to you is like my coffee.
Boom, baby. I'll take that as a compliment, man. Well, I'll tell you what. I had the honor of meeting you on Clubhouse, and just the way you serve and give. I know what an amazing person you are, because we're pretty much in conference rooms all day at Clubhouse, every day, every week. Who is Daniel Robbins? Tell the Daniel Gomez Inspires audience, who is Daniel Robbins, please?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been someone in the background, and I hardly use social media. I was never really in the forefront. So for me, it was really about, business, making money. And then I realized I really want to help people. It's something I've always wanted to do. I just didn't figure out how, but now I'm trying to put myself out there, be more in the forefront, like you said. And really our goal is to help and inspire 100 million entrepreneurs in our lifetime.
Well, I'm hearing you say this and I'm looking at you, but part of me doesn't want to believe it. The reason I say that is you have an amazing group on Facebook, but more importantly, you have over 35,000 people in your Clubhouse. Can you tell us the full name of the club that you have here on Clubhouse, if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course. It's What It Takes to Run a $1 Million Biz.
And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, they hold the record on Clubhouse for running the room, right? For those of you that don't know, let me explain before I start saying. It's like a conference room inside of Clubhouse, inside of an app. For those that don't have Clubhouse, I'm sorry, you need to download that app today. So Daniel, Kate, your amazing club there. They ran over, was it 21 days, if I'm not mistaken, Daniel?
20 days, yep.
Over 20 days. So to do that and to have just engagement is one. To have it is one thing, but to have 21 plus days plus engagement is another thing. So, man, I got to tell you, that's why when you say I'm not a social media guy, I'm like, are you sure? So let me ask you, what is IBH Media, Daniel?
Yeah, so IBH Media was really born from COVID. So when COVID hit, a lot of our businesses are in hospitality, the hotels. We have a hotel brand in the Philippines, which I love. It's actually Ventana sa Paraiso, which means window to paradise. And unfortunately, having a hotel in Asia during a pandemic that started in that side of the world is difficult. We have hospitality, and so basically everything was shut down overnight. And Kate and I sat down, my wife, and we said, "What can we do? Like, we don't know how long this is going to be, but what is it that we can do right now?" And we said we've always wanted to impact people, and that's where IBH Media came. It started with one podcast, and it's grown from there.
Wow. So what exactly do you do for the entrepreneur? Say somebody is new, they don't know what to do. They're like media. Okay. Because I don't care what business you are, right? Whether you're a brick and mortar, whether you're a speaker like me or a corporate trainer like me or a podcaster, you can never have too much exposure. So what exactly what gap do y'all fill in there as far as for the media exposure goes?
Yeah. So with IBH Media, we had a podcast network. So we have a few podcasts that we helped, a couple of people, executives, like you said, entrepreneurs that want to change the world. They would come to us and we would help them start their podcast, help build it out, help grow their podcast, grow their downloads, listens. But it's really turned into something a lot more. We also have other digital assets. We have a bunch of different Facebook groups with a few 100,000 people in it. So it's really gathering the audiences and then bringing the people into those audiences more so than you coming to me and say, hey, I want media, right? We don't really do PR or anything. So our whole thing is more about providing a platform where people can go and they can get the information they need because of these experts that we'll bring in or experts that we put onto the platform, which is where Clubhouse and the club really comes in as being an amazing platform. It just seemed, basically there was a synergy in what we were already doing and just really morphed into the Clubhouse.
I got to tell you, I haven't been on a Clubhouse. I've been there maybe going on 6 weeks, maybe going on 2 months already. But I can tell you when I got there, you're one of the first people that I actually met. And I'm still trying to figure it out, right? But I didn't really understand the whole concept. But I said, well, I think you just raise your hand, you speak. But what I love about Clubhouse is that it really helps you to connect with people in their heart and you hear their voice. And I got to say this, man, I connected with you because I think you're real. And there's a lot of people, like not just in Clubhouse, but everywhere, there's always like a motive, right? And I want to just commend you and say, Daniel, thank you for being you, from one Daniel to another, right? What's better than one Daniel, two Daniel? So thank you for being you. So let me ask you this, because you said something that was very interesting. Many businesses, when COVID hit in 2020, they didn't pivot. They pivoted the wrong way, or they didn't make it out, man. And it's part of business, right? Unfortunately, it is. Mm-hmm. But I don't mean that in a bad way. But what did Daniel and Kate do? Tell us like 2 or 3 things maybe that you can share with the audience that you implemented. Because if you're in the hotel business, media is totally different. What gave you the confidence? What gave you that strategy to go out there and say, man, you know what, we can do this?
Yeah, so Kate's nickname is the Pivot Queen. And it really started around 3 years ago when our main business at the time, we were actually on our way to get married and our main business was shut down overnight. As literally we're at the airport and we get a message that it has been shut down, and totally unexpected. We were ramping up. We had the highest revenue we've ever done. It was holiday season, which is usually crazy for us because we were doing e-commerce. And at that moment we said, wow, you know what? Like, this is terrible. I don't think life is going to go on. And we had our friends with us and they said, hey, you know what? Let's keep going. Went to the Philippines and we had an amazing trip. And during that time, we were expanding to a new hotel and we had never even seen the one that we had, but we put a lot of energy and effort because we saw something magical in that brand. And we said, let's put our effort in this brand, right? Because the truth is, I think what happens, and COVID shows, a lot of times you do a business because you've built it and you feel like you have to, and you feel like there's nothing else. But the truth is you hate it. And that's how it was for us. The e-commerce brand that we had in the business, we hated it. It sucked the life out of us. It was not fulfilling at all. We've been doing it for 6 years already. And it was literally, we had health, and Kate, my wife, she had health problems, nerve damage from this business. So it's almost like you have to step back and say, what's really important to life? What I was doing, is this something I really want to continue? And if not, this actually gives me the time now that I can focus on doing something new. I think that's step one. And step two, just understanding how much knowledge you have and how you can apply that to something else. Because I think people, they think that I'm going to have to start a new business. You're not really starting a new business because you've had X amount of years of knowledge that you can put into a business, and it's not like you're a startup, right? I think the third thing I'd say is buy a business. Don't start a business. So, we did buy some assets from businesses that were closing, and that really helped us. But I wouldn't really start a business now. My thing would be to buy an existing business, like you said, there's a lot that went out of business. There's a lot that probably won't reopen, but they could. But those owners are exhausted. So go find something that you can inject what you know into. And there's so many ways you can do it with seller financing and zero down that I would say buy a business.
Boom, baby. There you go. Okay, this is the time of the show. You got to get your pen and paper out, ladies and gentlemen. We know the routine, right? Time to put pen and paper. Daniel Robbins just dropped some wisdom right there. And I want you to really listen to what he said. Write this down. So many of us, we're in a business that we hate. So in reality, it was a blessing that COVID happened and think about that. His wife, Kate, she was having nerve damage, which we do think sometimes because we get in the habit of doing it. And then health-wise, it's killing us. Man, that's powerful. So ask yourself right now, what am I doing right now? Whether you're an employee thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, whether you have a business, am I doing it for the right motive? And I resonate with that story, Daniel, because I was in the car business for many years and I loved it. But there was a point after 20 years, I think it was habitual. And I didn't see that I wasn't as happy until when my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer and I really took that step back and she had her double mastectomy and I left the automotive industry. I was like, of course you miss it instantaneously, right? Because we're creatures of habit. We always go back to commonality. But I can tell you this past Christmas, man, I've never taken 2 weeks off in my life from Christmas to New Year's, and it was amazing. But I want to thank you for sharing that because somebody needed to hear that. You're doing something right now that you hate. And the second thing that he said is this, think about what Daniel said. He acted in spite of fear. He went forward and he bought properties. So Daniel, what made you go out there and buy another building or another hotel in the Philippines when everybody, this is what happened. I left 2020 because 2020 showed us who the real innovators were. You either took action, went forward, or you were in fear and you hunkered down and you missed the boat. What made Daniel Robbins and Kate go out there and just boom, buy another hotel?
Yeah, I think our whole thing is we're really clear with our vision and our mission. We know where we want to be. And despite what's happening, there's opportunities everywhere. Like you said, for example, in the US, we have some Airbnb unique spaces. So we had some land that we had purchased a while ago. We decided we wanted to get an RV. So we put an RV on the land because we wanted a place to camp. And turns out a lot of people want to rent an RV. So we put it on Airbnb and it was busy. And then we bought 3 more unique spaces like a bus, a military Jeep. I think there's opportunities everywhere. You just have to take a step back. And like you said, the fear stops people from taking action. I'm not great at that. I actually have a lot of fear, where Kate, my wife, is fearless. So if it was just me, I might take less action, to be honest with you, where she really would push me. So I think I can understand from both perspectives, but you are right. The fear will stop people from taking action. But if you take action and you believe in it and you make, you have somebody that maybe you can bounce some ideas, a coach, a mentor, take smart action. I think there's so many opportunities no matter what happens.
Yeah, I think you're right, because so many people, they try to do things on their own. And one thing that I always tell people is that at some point or another, you're going to need a mentor or coach, right? Mentors are great because people gravitate towards mentors, I think, because they're free. But I've had 2 or 3 coaches that have really catapulted me to the level that I am now. And of course, I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but we need that mindset, right? I always say this when I do my corporate training, like, who wants to be a multi-millionaire? And everybody raises their hand. I go, why ain't you one? Well, I don't know. Exactly, because you don't know how to think like one. You got to think like a multi-millionaire before you become one. And so many people want to have the successful business, but they don't know how to think like a businessman. What's your perspective on that? I want you to share with me right now, because I teach this, right, is they leave that 9-to-5 job. They become that entrepreneur, but they never develop the business skills to become a successful business owner. Talk to us about that. What does that speak to you when I say that, Daniel?
Yeah, so both my wife and I made that transition. She made that transition back in 2012. Me, I was much later than that because, like, to your point, I liked the corporate job. As weird as that sounds, being an entrepreneur to me sounds scary. I watch her. She's amazing at it. I don't think I had really the guts and, like you said, the fearlessness to do it. So I figured, let me keep moving up the ladder. But then I realized one day that you can only make an impact, You can only make a small impact working for somebody else. If you really want to impact the world, you have to work for yourself. It's the only way. So I think, to your point, go look for people that have already done what you're doing and see what they did and learn. And I think stay humble no matter what position, whether you're the president of a corporation, you don't necessarily know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. It's very different from owning a business and even being a chief executive officer of a major corporation. Two way different things. So humble yourself no matter what you do and find someone who's already done it and just emulate what they did.
This is Daniel Gomez Inspires, and I want to personally invite you out to the Sticker Shock Speaking Academy here in San Antonio, Texas on Friday, September the 10th and Saturday, September the 11th. If you want to get paid to speak, if you're an aspiring speaker who wants to share your story, or if you want more paid speaking engagements, we're going to show you how to apply, where to apply, and we're going to give you a professional speaking reel as part of your platinum package. Call me at 210-663-5954. That's 210-663-5954. It's time to start living your dream and becoming that paid professional speaker. Our graduates have earned thousands and gotten paid to speak. Be one of them. We'll see you here on September 10th and 11th at the Sticker Shock Speaking Academy in San Antonio, Texas. Call me now at 210-663-5954 to reserve your seat now.
I love that, man. That's a great. Y'all might be taking notes right here. This guy's dropping some wisdom. Let me ask you this: you made that transition, right? You made that transition. There was a point where you said, "What the heck did I do?" Let's be real, right? I'll go through that. What did I? What? Even though your wife's doing it, like, what did I get myself into? What did you learn about yourself when you transitioned? Because in your own right, you've been very successful, very, very successful, you and your wife. But what did you learn about yourself on that transition, and what did you do to regain your confidence after you lost it?
Yeah, you know what? I think when you have that guaranteed paycheck, and I'm just going to use that because obviously anyone can be fired at any moment, so nothing is ever guaranteed. But when you work for someone, you have that guaranteed paycheck. When you think about wanting to go do something, and I do suggest start a side hustle if you're working for someone and you don't have a lot of savings, start a side hustle and grow it before you just go all in and quit your job. Because so many, 90% or 80% of businesses will fail in 5 years, or I don't know the statistic, but it's pretty high. So I think you have this sense, though, when you do have that job, I feel like it's a different feeling than when you don't have that job. So it's like when I did have a job, I was never so worried about the business because I'm like, hey, I have this check and I have this good job and I'm moving up. But when I left the job, it's a totally different feeling. I'm like, wow, you know what? But I was free now. That sense, almost like that fear, that sense of worry was almost empowering because I made a lot more happen. When I had a job, it's like I had something to fall back on. So I don't have to push myself. I don't have to do as much. When I didn't have the job, I'm like, holy cow, I have to, right? This is the only way. It's my only thing. So, and I've heard this story a lot where people are like 30 days before they have no money left in their bank account. And that's the moment that they actually succeed. It's like when your back's against the wall and you have nothing left to give is like the moment where you actually take off. And I could see that getting rid of that cushion might actually help people propel them. Yeah, because if you have a safety net, just think if we go to the circus and we see the trampoline guy and he has a net underneath, it's like, that's no fun, right? High wire guy is what I meant. It's like, well, it's okay. Well, yeah, he's doing it, but it's not really because he has a net. And what Daniel is saying is so many of us, we think a job is our net, and it's not. 2020 proved that again. More than, I don't know how many thousands of people got laid off, maybe millions, but there's no guarantees of days of going to General Motors and taking your lunchbox to work with you and working there for 20 years, 40 years and retiring. Those days are over, right? You have to understand that the world has evolved. And what Daniel is saying is, in spite of fear, he took that, he's grew in that, been very successful. And not only that, just the freedom that he's gotten. So let me ask you this, Daniel, what's one thing that you learned about yourself on this journey that you're like, man, if I would have known this, I would have done this a long time ago? Oh, man, And freedom's a funny word in business, right? Because a lot of people are like, I don't want to work for my 9 to 5. I want to be free. Well, I'm like, hey, instead of working your 9 to 5, you're going to work 24 hours a day as a business owner. So you got to think about the word freedom, right? Until your business is obviously, moving and grooving without you and well-oiled machine. But as something about myself, I think, like when you go back to that word fear, I had a lot of anxiety since I was a kid. And that anxiety has stopped me from doing a lot of things that I wanted to do, or I would get going and I get to a point and then I just give up because I have that fear and that anxiety. It really overtakes me. It's powerful. So I think something I've learned though about myself is, I think it was David Goggins, amazing, author and athlete. He talks about doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable every day, doing something you fear every day. And that's what I really try and do now is I try and push myself. And that's what I learned about myself is I can actually do things that I really was so scared of before, even though it seems so small, but just pushing yourself to do something every day that makes you feel uncomfortable.
Well, I can tell you this. I didn't know who the Daniel Robbins was that came out of that, but since I've known you these past going on 2 months, dude, like you're influencing literally thousands of people. And I would say hundreds of thousands because you have 35,000 people in your club on Clubhouse. And what it takes to run $1 million biz. So I would say out of those 35,000, you probably have another 100,000 that flow through there. So you're literally impacting hundreds of thousands of lives because of the fact. Think about that. I'm going to say it again, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking to a gentleman, Daniel Robbins, who did not allow anxiety, did not allow fear to hold him back. And because of that, within months, they're impacting not thousands, but hundreds of thousands. And once this app opens up to Android and it's out of beta stage, because Clubhouse is still in beta stage, literally millions of people are going to be in this room of yours because you were the trendsetter, right? You were the trailblazer. You did it despite of that. Isn't that awesome, man?
Yeah, it's unreal.
Let me ask you this. Let's shift a little bit here. So what makes Daniel Robbins distinctive? What makes you unique, man?
Man, I don't even know.
Come on.
That's a good question.
I know you're humble, but well, let's ask Kate then. No, but on a serious note, what makes you unique, man? What stands out about Daniel Robbins?
Yeah, I think for me, I know, right? It's much better to ask somebody else about you. I have a real hard time talking about myself, but I think for me it's just even if I'm not setting the goal myself, if somebody gives me a goal, I will not stop at anything. I get this feeling, and it's not really a competitive nature because I'm not really competing with anyone, but it's almost like competing with myself to achieve something. So when somebody gives me something or a goal or I have something, man, I will not stop at anything until I can achieve that goal. And that's just something that's always been inside. But whether I have to learn a new skill or whether I have to do something completely out of the box, like that's just something I really thrive on, that feeling in that sense. And that's why I think I did good in when I worked for somebody. Because whatever they told me they do, I always did it 10 times better.
There you go, man. Well, you know what? You're doing it, man. Look at you. I mean, I got to say, to me, you bring a lot more to the table, a lot more uniqueness, like I say, distinctiveness than you realize, man. So I just want you to know that. There was 2 things right now, Daniel, that you see that many entrepreneurs are doing that are wrong. What are 2 things that you can give them that advice ahead of time, or maybe someone's that aspiring entrepreneur? What are 2 words of wisdom that you would tell that person? Hey, don't do this, and hey, don't do that.
Yeah, I think don't go it alone. I know a lot of people say it's a lonely place, but it really doesn't have to be. There's so many people out there that can relate to you. There's so many people out there that you can connect with. Like you said, look at that. We connected. I feel like we talk so much. I talk to you more than I talk to my family, right? There's so many people out there, but a lot of people, they silo themselves just because they don't have the community or they're not in the community. So they think it's a really lonely place. And I would believe that a lot of people fail because when you're going something alone, it's so hard to succeed by yourself. So my number one thing would be go and find that community, that group where you really fit in. They're everywhere. There's millions and hundreds of millions of people in the same place that you're in right now. Go find them and really build a relationship.
I agree. I got to tell you, there was a part of my journey, Daniel, when When I left the automotive industry, that was my identity. I think for like 6 months, I even cried one time, just frustrated because it's like you get lonely because the things that you used to talk about, they don't excite you. And you still haven't found your community that what you want to talk about. For me, when I left, it was really to be a speaker. I didn't have any speaker friends, right? So I was like, well, I didn't want to be over here, but I don't know anybody over there. And when you isolate yourself, it does get lonely. And the beautiful thing about Clubhouse now is you hear somebody's voice. It's not just a picture. So to Daniel's point, go out there. Hey, if you don't have an Apple phone, an iPhone, go get an old one. Go buy a used one. Because I can tell you the communities that are being built on Clubhouse, there's many, many great relationships that are being built. And meeting Daniel is just a great example of that. And I love what you said. So Daniel, what is a quote or a scripture that you fall on during time of adversity in your life or business?
Man, there's so many.
Well, give me 10 of them then.
I'll just call you and then you can give me one. But the first thing that comes to my head, I'll just say that is, if you believe it, you can achieve it, which I think was Walt Disney, but I could be totally wrong on that. But for some reason, I always go back to that quote for the last decade. I don't even know why, but if you can believe it, you can achieve it, has just always stuck in my head. And I think there's just so many people out there that you really think you can't do something, but then you look at the people that did, and if you ask them what they did, they just literally believed in something and just went for it.
Yeah, we don't realize how powerful our thoughts are sometimes. When you said that, I thought about, right? What you think about, you bring about. What you believe you can achieve, you're going to do it. Whether or not you can achieve it, you believe it, you're right. Only you said that. Write this down, ladies and gentlemen. All limitations are self-imposed. All limitations are self-imposed. And the quote that Daniel just gave us, if you believe it, you can achieve it. If you believe it, no one can believe it for you. What Daniel was saying is you must believe it for yourself. So write that down right now, because that's a word of wisdom right there that he just dropped on us. And you have to start believing bigger things for yourself. If you keep believing that all you deserve is just a small granule of success, well, then that's all you're going to get. But there comes a point in your life where you got to believe that, hey, I deserve more. I was born for more. You were born to make millions. You really were. And maybe you don't see yourself as a multi-millionaire, but I'll tell you what, maybe you'll never reach that. But hey, getting close to it is better than nothing. And it's not about the money. It's about the people that you can help along the way, that you can contribute to. Because you know what, Daniel, what really upsets me sometimes is when people, they say that, I don't want to say it that way. They say they don't realize what they say. I don't want to say the dumbest thing, but that they don't realize what they say. And they say, well, I don't need no money. I'm like, I get it. But why do you think so many people don't embrace success? And part of success, it does include wealth. And I never realized until I started my journey these past 4 years, how many people actually, instead of receive financial wealth or gain, they reject it. What's your perception on that?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things there. I think you want to be the dumbest one in the room. I know you were talking about it. I do believe that a lot of times people want to be the smartest one in the room, and they're not hanging out with the right people, because I really enjoy being around people that are 10 times smarter, have done bigger and better things than me. I think that allows you, to your point, if you see someone and you make friends with someone who's a billionaire, you might start believing like, hey, you know what? Maybe I deserve it. Maybe I could do it. Right. Because you get to meet them and it seems more achievable. Right. When you think of like a famous celebrity or an athlete, you're like, I could never be like that. Right. But when you meet them and you become friends with them and you realize they're just the same as you, they're just, they eat, sleep, and do the same thing as us, that you think, wow, you know what? I could do that. So to your point about the mindset, I think you got to be the dumbest one in the room. You have to find those people. And then, like I was saying before, you could figure out a way to emulate, and maybe your worth will be higher when you're around them more.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, because I was just talking to one of my clients about this. It's like the power of association, whether you call it proximity, whether you call it environment, it's easy, right? You want to know what your future is going to be like in 5 years? Books are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? And who are you hanging around with? And I can honestly tell you that my associations have shifted so much. And I think people feel guilty because it's not that you're better than anybody else. But the thing is, you got to make a space and a place for new people to come into your life. And that's kind of what I hear you saying. So, man, look at you, dude. I should have had you on my show a long time ago. I love the value that you're bringing. So, Daniel, if we want to get a hold of you and just connect with you, how do we get a hold of Daniel Robbins?
Yeah. So my social is Real D Robbins. So at Real D Robbins. Unfortunately, somebody else had the Daniel Robbins and the Dan Robbins taken. So this is the only one I can get. You can find me on Clubhouse at Daniel Robbins. And I mean, I'm really active on LinkedIn. So just look up my name on LinkedIn. I'm right there.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, thank you for being a guest and bringing value to our show. You've been an amazing guest. And let me ask you this. I want you to, before we close it out, because you've inspired me, I want you to take a minute, look into the camera, and speak to that entrepreneur that is thinking about giving up today. And the reason they're going is because of you. Take a moment before we close out the show and speak to them for a moment, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So no matter what you're going through right now, there is somebody out there that went through worse and they came through and got even better afterwards. So if somebody else could go through something that you're going through or even worse, and they came out the other end and they're fine, the majority of problems that you're having, you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're still going to be alive. And if you're still alive, that means you can still do something. So as much as you feel like your life is over or your business is closed or COVID, whatever, it doesn't really matter. You're going to come out the other end. Tomorrow you're going to wake up. You're still going to be breathing and you can still make it happen.
Boom, baby. There it is, right? You're alive. Take the breath you've been given today and go out there and make something happen, man. Woo, Daniel. Hey, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have his contact information in the show notes, his websites, everything, all his handles. So thank you again, my friend. As we come to the end of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, I want to encourage you. If you need a coach, reach out to us. Shield of Faith Coaching will help you on your business coaching, executive coaching, entrepreneur coaching. You need revenue. Your business will not survive without revenue. And one thing that I specialize in is generating revenue and helping you find the products that are going to help you to make the money that you need to make to survive, to grow your business, but more important, to be a blessing to other people. So that's a wrap for this week's episode. Reach out to me. I'd love to help you on the coaching aspect. We'll see you next week here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show with another amazing guest. And thank you once again, Mr. Daniel Robbins, for being our guest this week.
I'm honored. Thanks, Daniel.
This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.